8:41.
Basically, this generation is more liberal, more tolerant, more Democrat-leaning than the one before. It's not just because they're young.
For another point of view, it's Hard News with Russell Brown and Wammo on Kiwi.
Is the Hard News blog at publicaddress.net and also the Media 7 show on TVNZ 7 Thursday evenings. Russell Brown, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's talk financial stuff first of all. The government deficits and talk this morning about changes to KiwiSaver.
Yeah. The incentives in KiwiSaver to encourage us to save will be cut back, which may have unintended consequences. But, I don't think there's any doubt that the government does have to be very careful with expenditure because we're looking at having the biggest deficit ever. It's interesting, though, that National still seems to be able to get away with blaming the previous government for this. And I rather think that if Labor had their act together a bit more, they probably wouldn't be letting that happen. Because it is starting to get a bit ridiculous. National have been in government for 3 years, and I would have to say the thing that Labor should be hammering is that when National took office, there were projections for a deficit this year, but nothing like what we've got.
Yeah.
And someone has to own that.
Yeah.
Honestly, yes, listening to Prime Minister's question time yesterday in Parliament was just depressing.
Yeah.
Phil Goff got up and there's this incredibly serious economic news that affects us all as a nation, and he jumps up and starts talking about the damn ministerial BMWs.
Yeah.
It was just absurd.
Yeah.
Their message should be, National has buggered the economy.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, that's what their message should be.
Well, that's what their message should be, absolutely.
Yeah.
The whole question time thing puzzles me. I don't know whether it's about trying to get a question time soundbite onto the news.
Yeah.
And so maybe the BMWs might have done that. I'm not sure if it did, but...
No, it didn't at all.
No.
John Armstrong's got a column in the Herald this morning, PM a hard target to hit in-house, and praising John Key's ability to bat away questions. Well, he kind of didn't... It wasn't that hard, frankly. He really got them served up. I mean, when you're going to concentrate on that, the rich prick trivia... then it is actually going to be quite easy to bat away because the government can then look governmental.
Does the opposition need to watch the BBC Hard Talk interview to get some ideas?
Yes. I think a lot of journalists need to watch the BBC Hard Talk interview. This is with John Key.
Yeah.
And hopefully it will turn up on YouTube at some point. You and I have both obtained copies of the whole one.
Yeah.
And it was a delight to see a meticulously researched, well-structured, firm interview.
It was, yeah.
And John, it was also pretty fascinating to watch the smile disappear from John Key's face.
Yeah, I was just saying that before, yeah.
It's quite remarkable, actually. And there's one phrase that kept coming up from the Prime Minister, oh, that's not my view.
Yeah, or I don't agree with that proposition.
Yeah, or I don't agree with that proposition. He wasn't presenting facts at any point.
No, just that he didn't agree with it.
Yeah.
There was no rebuttal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it was, and it was quite a strange interview in that respect.
Yeah, and he does seem to pick and choose his interviews. He was asked onto the Campbell Live show the other night about the rising cost of living, and he said, "No, not going to talk to you." And
they've been getting away with that quite a bit too. And also on Morning Report, which is where ministers are expected to turn up, they have been increasingly just refusing to front because it works better for them. They're sailing along on very high poll ratings. John Key has these great approval ratings, and they really don't need to front. And I really, I kind of think that perhaps the nation's political journalists and editors need to get a bit firmer about this.
Well, how do you? I mean, like, if they say I don't want to come on, what do? You
make a big play of there being an empty seat.
That's what Paul Holmes used to do.
Yeah. No,
did it work?
Well, it does work actually. If you don't do it all the time, but if you have a particular issue where you feel that the Prime Minister or one of his ministers should front, and they don't, then you make it very clear. If it's TV, you have an empty seat there.
But you know what John Key would say? Oh, I was busy. It was something to do with national security.
Oh, or some promotional stunt.
Yeah.
He seems to do that quite a bit as well. But look, he gets away with it. And the other thing, actually, I have to say, in terms of political media, is what's happened to John Stevenson, who is the journalist who wrote the Afghanistan SAS story in Metro, which is a fascinating story.
It was on your show last week. Recommend people check that out.
We actually weren't thinking of having John back for quite some time, but he is going to be back this week because of the attacks the government has made on him.
Yeah.
Rather than rebutting the story, they've decided to play the man and directly attacking Stevenson and questioning his credibility, whilst at the same time, in the House, in Wayne Knapp's case, admitting that he was right. It's a really, it's a very odd situation. And we've also seen the Defence Force Chief Rhys Jones pretty much call John Stevenson a liar. And I know that Stevenson is extremely confident that he can demonstrate everything he's said, and has actually taken legal advice about what General Rhys Jones has said about him. But the approach of most of the press gallery has been kind of lamentable. You would think there would be some sort of solidarity. I was going to say that.
They laughed. Yeah, they did. I heard that in the press conference. They laughed. Yeah. Well, why is this? So we've got John Stevenson, who's a freelance journalist, go out there doing the really hard yards.
Yeah.
And there's no backup there from the New Zealand journalism community to do the backup questions, to follow through, to do the day-to-day stuff. Why is that?
I don't know. We certainly get plenty of commentating the horse race every day.
Yeah.
And that's always been the problem in political journalism. I guess it always will be. Is that the people who are right up close to it will be, end up commentating the race, basically, rather than looking into the issues. And there is a big issue with this SAS thing. Basically, it's that the government has lied to us, and successive governments have lied to us about what the SAS are doing in Afghanistan. And it's been really pretty well demonstrated in John Stevenson's story. And you would think that it would be more of a story.
So on the show, because you're recording this afternoon, are we expecting any sort of new revelations, anything that's going to...
No, it's more just actually to give John Stevenson a chance to reply.
So are you guys going to be talking about the text that he sent John Key or something?
Yeah, I will ask him about that and what happened, because I understand it's not as John Key. John Key told that story in such a way as to make Stevenson look like a kook.
Yeah.
It was not accidental. It was quite deliberate. It was quite brutal. So naturally, we've got to ask John about that. And just to respond to, basically being called a liar. It is a remarkable situation.
Is this the similar sort of stuff that I guess Nikki Hager received as well?
Yes.
From Helen Clark?
Yeah, it is. And I thought that Paul Buchanan on Kiwi Politico, actually got it right when he said, the government's taken a page out of Helen Clark's book on character assassination and then attempted to write it more crudely. Because this is extremely crude. This is Muldoon level.
But, it works on mainstream New Zealand because, most people in New Zealand probably think Nikki Hager is some weirdo, hippie, lefty, socialist, pinko, crazy.
Yeah.
And no doubt many now probably think John Stevenson is too.
Yeah, if they're even aware of it. I think the problem all along with this Afghanistan story is that it's just not sexy. It's really hard to get people interested in.
Yeah.
Even though, it goes to a really, deep, important issue of we are not being told the truth. No one's saying that it's easy, especially in Afghanistan, especially when the good guys are doing the torturing. It's a dreadful situation that they found themselves in very early on, but we need to be told the truth about it.
Yeah. Now, I've said it before a few times on the show. I can't believe that Afghanistan isn't on the election agenda.
Yes.
And is not an issue.
Yeah.
And I don't wish this on our New Zealand troops, but it may just take another body on the ground for the New Zealand public to wake up about what is going on in Afghanistan and how dangerous it is there for our troops right now, and the fact that the situation is not getting better, it's getting worse.
Yes, yeah. At the same time, though, it's looking more likely, whether it's justified or not, the the drawdown of all troops from Afghanistan is going to accelerate, which is interesting in itself. I should say the other thing we're going to be looking at on the show this week is the Official Information Act, and how well it's functioning, and whether certain requests, like those by the journalist David Beatson about Afghanistan again, have been systematically frustrated. Our view is that they have.
Yeah.
We've got the Deputy Ombudsman, Leo Donnelly, on, which is going to be interesting. So, yeah, it's going to be a rather heady show this week, but we'll do something trivial next week.
All right, tomorrow night, 9:10.
Lovely.
Thanks. Cheers, Russell. Yeah, Media 7 show on TVN7 and the Hard News blog at publicaddress.net.